Hello, this is Mr. Chabry. We are here with another narrated Pokemon battle. So this is going to be an OU match against Ripz Winter. And looking at my opponent's team, I'm kind of scared of that Magearna. Magearna could be a big threat if we're not careful. Dragonite could probably set up. A lot of Dragonites run weakness policy, so I'm going to have to worry about that. And Mega Lopunny, that's a very fast Pokemon that can hit really hard, so I think that's going to be a big threat too. I'm going to lead off with my Zapdos, as my opponent leads off with the Garchomp. Normally this would not be a good matchup for me, however I do have Hidden Power Ice on my Zapdos. So I'm going to go ahead and go for that first turn, as my opponent actually goes ahead and goes for the Swords Dance. So we're going to completely devastate this Garchomp right out of the gate. And that's actually pretty helpful too, because Garchomp is a threat to a big chunk of my Pokemon. The Tyranitar, my own Garchomp, and the Heatran. Now my opponent sends out the Lopunny, and I'm sure this is the Mega Lopunny. The Zapdos I'm running is actually a Choice Spec Zapdos, so I'm locked into Hidden Power Ice, and I do not want to take a hit from this thing either. So I feel like my best bet is to go into my Toxapex here, as my opponent's going to go for the Fake Out and go ahead and get some chip damage. However, we're going to heal a little bit of that up with that Sludge, so yeah, we should be fine. My opponent's going to go ahead and bring in the Magearna, so I'm actually kind of nervous about this Magearna. It has a chance to set up on us, and it could actually sweep us if we're not careful. I would like to get some Toxic Spikes up. That's going to help me out with that Gastrodon. It's also going to help me out maybe a little bit with that Lopunny. However, it's not going to do anything with the Magearna. My opponent's actually going to switch into Dragonite instead of using that as an opportunity to set something up. I'm going to actually go back into my Zapdos, because I know Magearna does get Thunderbolt, I think, and I feel like I need to have my Zapdos to handle that Magearna. So now my opponent's going to make another switch back into Magearna here, maybe hoping to set up something. I just go ahead and Volt Switch here, mainly because I don't want to go Hidden Power Ice on the Dragonite, just because that will just, help the Dragonite set up if it happens to have that weakness policy. So that way I can bring in something on the switch, and I'm going to go into my Heatran here, as my opponent makes another switch into the Dragonite. Here I'm going to Toxic, predicting a switch. I didn't think my opponent would want to risk losing Magearna there, as my opponent brings in the Dragonite, who takes the Toxic. So now we don't have to worry about the multi-scale, making it, take hits better than what it normally would. So now I'm going to go ahead, go back into my Toxapex. I do have Haze on this Toxapex, so if we see a Dragon Dance, I can easily eliminate that. We're going to see an Earthquake. That would have done a ton of damage on the Heatran, so it ends up being a good thing that I switched in to my Toxapex. Even though Toxapex doesn't take it the best, it actually looks to be like maybe a 2-hit KO. However, with Toxapex here, yeah, I'm kind of at risk at losing this bulky Pokemon that can do so much for me. My opponent's actually going to go ahead and switch, instead of taking that as an opportunity to set up, and I'm going to switch my Pex out. I don't want to lose it or take too much damage, and with the Regenerator, we can heal it all the way back up as long as we've got not too much damage on us. I bring out my own Zapdos, as this actually ends up being okay, because now I've got my own Zapdos against my opponent's Zapdos, and my opponent's going to go ahead and defog away the Toxic Spikes. That's not the worst thing for me. I can easily set it back up. I just know that I have to get rid of the Zapdos in order to do so. So, of course, since I am locked into Thunderbolt, I don't want to stay in, just because Gastrodon is a easy switch in on me. So I'm going to go ahead and go into Tyranitar here. It might not be the best thing against the Gastrodon, but I feel like if there's anything that I could do, I could, switch into this and get some nice chip damage on it. And the good thing about the Sandstorm is it's going to boost my special defense. So I'm hoping that actually ends up helping me out. My opponent's actually going to make a switch back into Zapdos here, instead of letting Gastrodon take any damage. I'm just going to go ahead and Crunch. Unfortunately, we're going to get hit with the Static, so that's actually kind of bad. We're going to be paralyzed. It's not the worst thing. Tyranitar is already not that fast of a Pokemon, but in certain situations that might actually hurt us. We're going to see the Gastrodon making a reappearance, as it's going to actually start going for Curses. So it's going to boost up that defense, boost up its attack, lower its speed. So we see that this isn't a special set, is more of a physical set. I'm going to Crunch, This is a Choice Bandit Tyranitar. So of course it should do decent damage even after the curse, as we see there, but it's still not going to be enough to do a 2-hit KO. And I'm going to go for another crunch. I do have a chance to get a defense drop, as this time we're just going to go ahead and take it out. So yeah, that really probably came down to a roll there, which actually was very nice. We're going to see that Lopunny come back in, and like I said earlier, I don't want to get hit with this Tyranitar by the Lopunny. That thing can hit really hard. So I'm going to go ahead and switch as my opponent brings in the Magearna on the expected Toxapex. So yeah, this Magearna is a huge threat, and we're going to have to be careful. So now, what I want to do is actually not take any damage on my Pex. I kind of think I probably do need to keep Pex alive, and a Thunderbolt would do a lot of damage to us. I feel like Zapdos is my best switch-in, as we're going to see the Thunderbolt right here, and it ends up, you know, not taking that much damage. I'm going to Volt Switch. I actually predicted a switch here. I could have easily Heat Wave. However, I did think there was going to be a switch. However, we're just going to let this thing eat its Ayapa Berry, and that's actually kind of unfortunate. But with that Volt Switch, we can easily bring in our Heatran, and Heatran is looking very good here. Of course, we're going to have to take a nasty Thunderbolt, but Heatran actually can take that pretty well, so we're not in that much trouble. Here, I'm going to go for a Magma Storm, mainly because if my opponent does switch, we can trap whatever comes in on the field, and it will take care of the Magearna, so we'll go ahead and do that. As now we're going to see the Dragonite, and we've already seen Earthquake. I'm not totally sure what my opponent's other moves are. I don't want to take that Earthquake though, so I'm going to go into my Zapdos here, predicting the Earthquake. You know, and I do have Hidden Power Ice, so I can handle that. However, my opponent's going to go for the Dragon Dance this time. So this Dragonite has just became a huge threat. I guess the silver lining you could say is, since it is toxic, the multi-scale is not going to help it out, and we already seen the leftovers, so we don't have to worry about like a weakness policy if it happens to survive. So right here we're going to actually see a Fly, and of course I'm not too worried about Fly. I resist that, and it's not going to do that much damage to my Zapdos. Zapdos is actually decently bulky. So here we're going to take that Fly. I have no reason not to hit Hidden Power Ice again. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that, and I'm hoping I can take this thing out because, like I said earlier, this thing is a huge threat. Unfortunately, it's not going to be quite enough. So this thing has actually got some decent special defense bulk there. But luckily with that Toxic Poison, it will be gone. So yeah, that Dragonite is gone, and that's actually a really good thing because Dragonite is a huge threat to me. But now we're down to my opponent's last Pokemon, which is this Mega Lopunny. We're just going to sack off Zapdos, really. Zapdos has done its job, and it's not going to take a hit anyway, so this thing will outspeed us. And I can go into my Kartana here. This is a Choice Scarf Kartana, so it will outspeed the Mega Lopunny. And we're just going to click Sacred Sword, and that will be the game. So good game, Ripz Winter. Had some really interesting Pokemon there. And luckily, we were able to play around those said Pokemon. So if you like this, give it a thumbs up, subscribe. I will see you in the next Pokemon video.